my view on the manipulation of Bitcoin is that it's not impossible, but I also believe it isn't happening to a large degree, and I don't think it's likely. A number of reasons that make it better than gold. One, you can see all the transactions on chain, so you can see the addresses. Two, so it's pretty hard to create paper Bitcoin. I mean, people have done it. I mean, Sam Bankman-Fried did it, and others have done it. And there'll be, and there are derivatives on it. As long as there are derivatives and futures on it, that's paper. And so, there is theoretically, if those markets became enormous, if those markets became 100 times the size of the daily trading on chain, well, that would be a different matter. Then maybe there'd be manipulation taking place. And by the way, that's what's going on in gold.
Soaring gold and Bitcoin prices have raised fears about inflation, debt, and economic instability, revealing shortcomings in the global financial system and leading to discussion over the future of money and wealth preservation. This pattern caught the interest of experts such as Lawrence Lepard, a crypto enthusiast, who views the current economic situation as a sick monetary system. Lawrence Lepard cites growing gold and Bitcoin prices as evidence, despite rising interest rates. He expects gold to reach $3,000 to $4,000 and sees Bitcoin as digital sound money that would outperform and eventually demonetize gold, noting that its transparency makes manipulation unlikely. According to Lepard, specialists who are concerned about inflation invest in gold, commodities, and Bitcoin. The U.S. federal interest expense has topped $1.2 trillion, and the federal debt has increased significantly. Lepard also emphasizes Bitcoin's transparency, making it resistant to manipulation in a way gold cannot match. As we bring you a short clip from Lawrence Lepard's discussion, kindly take some time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thank you. Please enjoy the video.
So we know something is wrong, because the price of gold and the price of Bitcoin the price of gold at a record high. The price of Bitcoin is bumping up against its old record high, and I think soon we'll break through it and go down to much higher highs. And so these two things are canaries in the coal mine that warn you that the monetary system is sick. In theory, this should not be happening. I mean, they've diverged from real yields. So, real interest rates, have gone generally speaking, when real interest rates, Powell pushed the rate up and raised real interest rates, that should have made gold and Bitcoin go down. It made them go sideways. And now, as he started to ease again, they're strongly going up. So, the other thing that's interesting that's happened recently is that he cut the short-term rates, but the long end got away from him or is getting away from him. I mean, the 10-year yield has gone up substantially since his cut. So, what I think all this is there's a slightly different tone in the markets that is coming to realize what you and I have known and what many Bitcoiners have known for some time, which is that the system is broken and the government can never stop printing. This is Lynn's fabulous meme, you can't stop this train, right? I mean, it's baked in the cake. I mean, another data, there are all kinds of data points. I mean, one data point is, U.S. federal interest expense, it's up over 1.2 trillion run rate. Or, the chart that showed the jump in the U.S. federal debt right after September 30. They closed the quarter and then added between $400 and $500 billion of debt in a matter of a week or two. I mean, it's just everywhere you look, you see signs that things are breaking. And then, you've got extremely smart investment managers like Paul Tudor Jones, who's, self-made billionaire through, investment management, and saying, look, inflation is the escape valve, or inflation is the way out. And that's why I own, gold, commodities, and Bitcoin. And, he's no dummy, right? So I think that, but that he wasn't on TV saying that 2 years ago. I mean, he was kind of supporting Bitcoin a couple of years ago, and others are saying it. Druckenmiller is saying it, El-Arian is saying it, Gunlock is saying it. I mean, even Jay Powell said it. Jay Powell said, this deficit cannot go on forever. He's right. I was kind of shocked he said it, to be frank. I was kind of like, okay, so why are you enabling it? But, something's got to give, right? And so that really is the $64,000 question. What's going to give and when's it going to give? And none of us really know. But I think what will inform us of when it's giving are the prices of the alternatives. I mean, you can either decide you're going to hold your savings in fiat currencies, in debt, or to some degree in stocks, or you can say I'm going to step out of that system and put my savings in something that can't be printed. And the three things that naturally come to mind are Bitcoin, gold, and silver. So. And I think what's happening is just more and more people are coming to, the choosing box number B. Okay, I get it. I know what's going on, and they're not going to fix it, so I better be over here. So, it could get kind of crazy. I mean, I think when Bitcoin takes out 73, I think this cycle, I agree with Max's numbers. I think we're easily going to be in the high 200s, within 6 to 12 months. So, and I don't think, there are a lot of people saying gold is at 30 or 2,700 now. And obviously, it's going to go back to 2,000. It's just, it's just a spurt. It'll come back in. And I strongly disagree. I think gold's going to 3,000 or 4,000 on its way to much higher for a variety of reasons. So those are the kind of the signposts that I think we should all be watching. The other one is the debt market. I mean, if we continue to see the long debt rates, interest rates go higher, that will mean that there are fewer buyers of the debt. And I suspect, all this at some point is going to create tight financial conditions that the Federal Reserve is going to have to create an excuse and react to. And, the reaction will be what they have always done in the past, which is they will cut interest rates and they will initiate QE and print money. And then if it gets bad enough, they'll initiate yield curve control and say, we are going to hold these yields at this level. And at that point in time, anybody in the world who doesn't understand that they can never stop printing, it will be just completely brain dead. At that point in time, our stuff's going to go nuts. And it'll be, to me, we're in the end stages of, this great fiat, Keynesian fiat experiment. But these end stages could still take a number of years. I don't think it's not like we're going to hyper-Bitcoinization next year.
Lawrence Lepard analyzes Bitcoin manipulation, claiming that it is rare owing to the blockchain's transparency and decentralization. He believes Bitcoin's volatility, having increased by 5 times in a year, makes manipulation difficult. On the other hand, Lepard observes that gold is easier to manipulate due to its centralized storage and central banks' power to manufacture money. He sees Bitcoin as digital sound money that will outperform and eventually demonetize gold, reducing its value to jewelry status. This process will take several years or decades. Despite acknowledging concerns about manipulation, Lawrence Lepard is skeptical, believing that those attempting to control Bitcoin will eventually fail. Lepard also notes that gold and silver are still superior repositories of value than fiat currencies, but Bitcoin's rising acceptance as money will push it forward. Let's go back to the interview and watch more clips to gain insights from James Lavish and Lawrence Lepard.
My view on the manipulation of Bitcoin is that it's not impossible, but I also believe it isn't happening to a large degree. I don't think it's likely. A number of reasons that make it better than gold. One, you can see all the transactions on chain, so you can see the addresses. Two, so it's pretty hard to create paper Bitcoin. I mean, people have done it. I mean, Sam Bankman-Fried did it, and others have done it. And there'll be, and there are derivatives on it. As long as there are derivatives and futures on it, that's paper. And so, there is theoretically, if those markets became enormous. If those markets became 100 times the size of the daily trading on chain, well, that would be a different matter. Then maybe there'd be manipulation taking place. And by the way, that's what's going on in gold. I mean, the amount of gold that's traded on, on exchanges on a daily basis is huge multiples of the underlying amount that we mine, in any given year. And so, it's a tail wagging the dog situation. But that's not the case in Bitcoin. The futures and options are mild or small compared to the total outstanding and the total tradable. So the other thing about Bitcoin is, gold is easier to manipulate in the sense that, gold has never gone up 5x in a 12-month period. And so, if you're going to manipulate something, you better be sure you have a printing press behind you so that when you get on the wrong side of the trade, you can print the money to cover your margin calls, right? And that's kind of what I think they did in the various times when they attacked gold. Because, they'd attack it and they'd probably get underwater, but they could sit there long enough and they had unlimited printing press, and so they could suppress it. When something goes up 5x in a year, which Bitcoin did, in the 2019-20 area, 2019-2020, that creates one hell of a big hole. And by the way, you don't have a BIS, you don't have coordinated central bank actions. How the central banks don't really even understand what Bitcoin is. So while I'm sure they're all sitting there thinking, oh shit, this is an alarm bell that we don't want to have going off. And it's possible they're even thinking, how are we going to figure this out and how are we going to suppress it? I wouldn't doubt me that they've got a working group working on that. I think that to think they've actually done it and got it in place and are ready to go with it, I'm skeptical. I don't believe that's the case. So, and I don't think they will in the future. I think this thing is going to move too quickly and it's going to overwhelm them. They had a long time, to manipulate gold. From 71 to present is a lot of years, and there were a lot of organizations, and they knew where it was, and it was centralized. It was in central bank vaults. They could lie about what they had, et cetera, et cetera. This is a different animal. So, I'm not too worried about it, but I hear, I'm sympathetic to the fear that it has and could be manipulated. And don't get me wrong. I mean, there will be people who will try to, trade around it and push it in a certain direction. But my sense is they're going to get wrecked. I mean, if you're short Bitcoin right here, and the God candle arrives, as Samson says it's coming, I agree he's right. You could get wrecked really quickly. And I mean, Caitlin thinks that there's a chance that, some bank will be on the wrong side of the Bitcoin trade and a GSIB will get wrecked at some point. I don't know if she's right, but it could happen. I mean, you don't want to be short an asset that can go up 100 or 200% in a matter of months. And this thing can do that, right? So it's a different animal. What I've always said that gold is analog sound money and Bitcoin is digital sound money. And silver's not even money anymore. I mean, it is, but it's been kind of demonetized by gold. The silver gold ratio is really, it's kind of amazing. However, silver is a very critical metal that's used in a lot of applications. So that, it's got kind of a dual role as somewhat of a monetary metal, but also an important industrial metal for solar and electronics. Look, Bitcoin is going to demonetize gold. That's just a fact, in my opinion. It will flip gold, and it will, gold will go down to its jewelry value, and some, a lot of the premium will come out of it. But I caution people to say, not tomorrow. This is a multi-year, arguably multi-decade process of that taking place, and in the scheme of things, gold and silver are still way better than fiat, in the environment that we're currently in, and so. 8 billion people kind of intrinsically understand that gold's money because we've had 5,000 years to prove it. As we know, the number of us who understand that Bitcoin is money, it's a much smaller number, and it's growing rapidly. That's why Bitcoin's going to outperform. But it's going to take a long time until it sinks into everybody that this is the base layer of the monetary system. But I think it will.
Meanwhile, Bitcoin is continually establishing new record highs on Monday, having surpassed $89,000. The sustained rise has prompted asset managers such as Bernstein to advise clients to consider adding Bitcoin exposure to their portfolios. Meanwhile, prediction market participants believe Bitcoin will hit $100,000 by the end of 2024. Bitcoin has risen by more than 10% in the previous 24 hours, crossing above the $89,000 threshold, as its price remains heavily impacted by Donald Trump's presidential election triumph last week. As the world's largest digital asset continues to soar, the prediction market Polymarket has seen an uptick in anticipation that Bitcoin could reach $100,000 before the end of the year. This might fuel the upward momentum, with a positive mood rising among investors and cryptocurrency enthusiasts. Matt Hoogan, Chief Investment Officer of Bitwise, noted that long-term Bitcoin holders had yet to sell below $100,000, despite increased investor interest in the surge. Another aspect of this surge is that many have stopped selling. Long-term owners are no longer prepared to sell Bitcoin for less than $100,000, and short sellers don't want to stand in front of a freight train, he wrote in an X post on Monday. Similarly, asset managers gathered record-breaking Bitcoin ETF volume over the last week. As a result, organizations such as Bernstein urged investors to consider investing in Bitcoin, predicting a dramatic price explosion. Today's record inflows into Bitcoin ETFs signal a strong optimistic attitude for the week, according to Eric Balchunas. Regardless of the huge energy driving the rally, the crypto data platform Ecoinometrics data reveals that Bitcoin's current rise has yet to surpass its price growth during the market rally in early March. As we conclude, do you think Bitcoin will continue to outperform gold in the next year, or will gold make a comeback? Please drop your thoughts in the comments below, share this video, and hit your thumbs on the like button. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.